Can FPs be logical? What's up, team? It's Sherman here from Geek Psychology. So I got a question asking if INFPs can be logical, if we use logical reasoning. And I'm just going to expand this out to FPs in general. So people using introverted feeling, people using what I call the reflective empath kind of character. Okay, here we go. So I don't feel that personally I am logical. I wouldn't consider myself to be a logical person. If somebody asked me like, hey, describe yourself in one word, logical is not the word that I would choose. And that doesn't mean that I can't use logic. It doesn't mean that my decisions are all over the place. And I know some people might feel that they are. Some people, they have those stereotypes of INFPs. For example, just being complete emos and breaking down and crying all the time and stuff like that. But from my experience, when I was younger, it was kind of like that. I mean, there's a lot of time where it was just like struggling horribly, trying to understand what is going on and how I feel about something and trying to make a decision. That doesn't mean that it is not reasonable, though. And I feel that like the criteria is different, right? I mean, feelers are trying to evaluate to make a decision, and thinkers are trying to check to see if it is correct or incorrect. It's more, I can't think of the word right now. It's more about, checking to see, like, is this true or is this false? Especially when we're talking about introverted thinking. Is it true or is it false? Introverted feeling is more like, is it good or is it bad? How do I feel about it? How do my values stack up with this? And what degree do they exist on this? Like, this is a good decision. This is a good decision. How slightly different are they in terms of how I've evaluated them? Not this is the correct decision because it's right, because I have these frameworks, these information models that I've used and I've zoomed in and out, got really granular on the information, on the data, and figured out that this is the correct choice. It's more like I've gone into my, just this like, I don't want it to sound too whimsical, but it kind of is. It kind of is from my experiences. Like I'm going into my different personalities, my different mini personalities, the different characters, the different actors within me. And I'm trying to evaluate it. I'm trying to see like how resonating is this decision with me and with other people in connection to that, right? Like, because it starts with me for introverted feeling. It starts with the empath. I'm trying to gather my sense of understanding about this in a feeling or belief or value-based way, and then I'm going to expand that out into the universal human domain. Feeling is the function, the cognitive function, the mental process that is organizing feelings and beliefs, right? Thinking is organizing the thoughts, the reasons, the frameworks. And so you see within that there is this difference of like, am I logical? No, I don't feel that I'm logical. I do feel that I'm reasonable. So I'm going back to that. I don't feel that my choices now are completely unexplainable. I think before, when I was growing up, there were times where I'm like, I don't really know, can't explain it, just trust me on this. And it happens sometimes now too, but more often than not, I can give reasons for it because I've connected more towards my extroverted thinking and extroverted intuition. Extroverted thinking would be like explaining it through, I suppose, actionable steps or things that we can kind of evidence and see, like, this is it. And that's why I felt that way, because the numbers on this, the value of this says it's this, and so I chose that, right? But extroverted intuition is more coming out like, I feel like it's like this. It's like I'm stuck in this muddy tar pit and I can't move forward. Each time I try to take a step forward, it gets like it just sucks me back in. I could back down. I guess it's easier to go back, but going forward, it just feels like there's no momentum. That's extroverted intuition actually, coming out there and trying to explain what's going on inside. But what is going on inside is often at this level of resonating, this level of understanding internally that I've evaluated personally based on my feelings and my beliefs. Does that make any sense at all? I hope it does. So just a little contrast to that, introverted thinking is going to take the data and it's going to zoom in on it and look at it as the sectioned off piece, okay? And then it's going to see, does this all make sense? Does this all work? Okay, it does. It's good. There are no flaws in it. There are no errors in this. I've checked it. I've ran my debugging process through it. There's malware. I've gotten rid of all that. Everything's good. Everything's clear and clean. The system is elegant. And then it can zoom out, and you would expect that the rest of the system would work. And if it doesn't, then there's another component that needs to be checked, right? And it's checking true or false, binary, right? It's checking the system to see yes, no, does it work, does it not? Okay, well, we need to go in, thin slice it, define it, and clarify the information. I don't really do that. I've tried. I've gathered some techniques around that to try to do it better, because I do feel that it's a good skill for me to have. But that's not really what I'm doing. I'm kind of doing that with feelings, right? You have a bunch of different emotions, bunch of different feelings that you're trying to understand how they're working together. Does the identity of this thing work? Is it something that's transplantable onto another situation? Like if I see somebody and they're sad for some reason, right? I can often combine my extroverted intuition as well and go into my closest representation of their feeling situation. That's why it's empathy. I don't feel it's sympathy. It's not the same feeling. It's my closest representation, right? So I'm doing that rationally. I think that's a reasonable thing. It's not logical, right? So I see, okay, they're looking sad. Okay, well, what could have happened? And I'm starting to speculate and use the what ifs, right? Use the extroverted intuition, the explore, use the alchemist, brewing all these different potions of feelings, trying to narrow it down and see which one would fit this situation based on my personal experiences, my feeling-toned experiences. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. I hope that it might have cleared some things up. I don't think that INFPs, for example, or FPs are illogical in the sense that most people would think of that word as like they're unreasonable, they're irrational. I don't think that's true. It's like saying TPs don't have feelings, or TPs can't evaluate based on relationships. That's completely ludicrous, right? But that doesn't mean that the priority is like, you got to look at the priority of it, right? Like TPs are going to look at the data, look at it more objectively like a scientist, although it is subjective. I understand that it's based within the person, but it's looking at it more like a scientist, an engineer, or something like that, right? Like checking to see how informed the decision is and how correct. You can't say how correct it is with the TP, right? That it is correct or incorrect, right? I think an FP would be okay with saying like, how correct is this decision, right? But I've had other INTPs say like, there's one truth. It's not a lot of truths, right? And that's fine. TPs are looking for that one truth, right? FPs do it a bit of a different way, right? But we do have extroverted thinking in there, right? And that does give it a more logical tone. It's more actionable information. Is it correct for this circumstance? Well, that's what matters, and I'm going to use that to get the task done, to get my achievement and level up, right? But it's just a different thing, right? Like, TPs are still going to, at some level, have this concern with how do other people resonate with this decision. And it might be fighting it, as FPs fight the system, the uniformity of things, right? But it's still in there. And it's still something that I think a lot of people don't really pay attention to. And when they come out with these stereotypes like INFPs are just emo and illogical and they can't figure anything out and they're all over the place, it's just they're using a different criteria, right? So I hope that this video might have cleared some things up. This is my, I suppose, opinion on it. And I just wanted to talk about it on video because I feel that other people might resonate with it, might get some information from it that is usable in their life. And so when they're in a situation, they're dealing with an FP or a TP, they can kind of have some more, I don't know, what's the word? I always forget words. They can have some more acceptance of how the other person is acting and making their decisions, and not necessarily look at it as like, is it illogical or logical, but is this the correct approach or the good approach, the right approach for this situation, right? These functions, the decision-making processes, are tools to problem solve, to get things done. And there are times that different characters are called upon, different skill sets are called upon, different tools are called upon. All right, so keep up the lifelong questing. Good luck, have fun. Peace.